Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3-Gun Show, brought to you by Armalite. This is episode 154, and I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is 3-gunner, match director, and industry professional, Adam Maxwell. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, Dave. Good to be on the show again.
It's good to have you back. We should give you some sort of like legitimate stationary title. I like special field correspondent, but
I like special field correspondent too, but I mean, I'm an ambitious person, so really I'm going for co-host.
Nice. Well, the road is long and arduous, but we wish you the best here. So we are here to talk about a topic that came up recently in one of the Facebook groups. Dillon Easley, our buddy Dillon Easley, put up a post in 3-gun gear, match, ammo, whatever discussion. It's the one that has like 12,000 members, and it's got the picture of the Born to 3-gun as their main photo there, which is kind of cool. But this topic is about rule changes in 3-gun, and we're going to discuss this in depth. And there's a lot of cool stuff that were brought up by people in the community, and a lot of good trolling that happened as well. And I thought this would be kind of fun to put this out for the audience and kind of get like our thoughts about it. My thoughts as like a shooter, your thoughts as like a shooter, match director, and someone in the industry as well. And so we're going to get into this. So be sure, folks listening, be sure to listen after the show for a special offer from Armalite. And Adam, before we get into this, what have you been up to lately, man?
Well, big changes in my world. I actually started a new job.
Where at?
I got called home to Vortex Optics HQ.
Sweet.
So I now fly a desk at the Middleton, Wisconsin facility. In the customer care department. So I am the guy who sends you the free scope caps when you lose them, or answers your troubleshooting questions. Some of your troubleshooting questions. I'm one of the people on the phones and the emails who does that. So if you would like, you call in, hit 502. We can talk about anything you want. But I sit 5 feet away from my supervisor, so we should probably stay within arm's reach of optics.
So do you recommend people torque their mounts quite a bit?
Oh my God. That's like 90% of the phone calls that we get is people who think their scope's broken, but they've actually torqued the ring so much that the erector tube, which is an actual part inside the main tube, can't move.
Oh, you're kidding.
It creates all kinds of strange issues, and the solution, more often than not, really, if you can get them to calm down and do it, is to just loosen their rings up, run their turrets up and down, and then torque it to the proper spec.
Huh, interesting.
And people, I mean, if everybody would do that, like FedEx's annual gross would go down like, I don't know, 3 or 4 million.
Oh wow! You know, I've had the problem with like loose scope mounts, but never over tight.
Almost always over tight.
Huh.
No, of course. No,
it's crazy.
No, of course, I have a skewed view because we're in customer care, so like we see all the bad ones. But yeah, you see lots of crushed tubes from guys who don't understand the difference between inch pounds and foot pounds.
I've made that mistake before. So
that's in people who think their red dot's broken because it's not a perfect circle.
Oh yeah, and oh man,
those too.
So you and I spoke just a couple nights ago, and we were kind of talking about the red dot co-witnessing sort of thing, right?
Oh yeah,
with iron sights. And you know, for the audience, like it's kind of a thing, like in the tactical world, to have your red dot in the same plane as your backup iron sights. So if you need to, you know, if your red dot goes down, you can put your iron sights up, and that same cheek weld, same zero, et cetera, et cetera. But people make the mistake of zeroing their gun by co-witnessing instead of getting it kind of there and then confirming zero. So I actually, just after you and I talked about that, I went and shot a carbine match. And
really?
Yeah, all carbine match. Oh, I got to tell you about that, by the way, sometime. But shot an all carbine match, and it's actually an AK match where they allowed us to shoot AR-15s if we didn't have an AK, which was kind of fun. So there was just a little under 50% of us that shot AR-15s. A couple people shot PCC, and then the majority shot AKs. But I did run into a guy who this was his first AR-15. In fact, it was his first time shooting it in the match. Like when the buzzer went off was his very first trigger pull, which is cool. And he had co-witnessed his red dot with the iron sights that came on the gun, and then he took those iron sights off. And again, first trigger pull. So, I guess I have like the curse of knowledge because like when I look at that, it's like, well, that's completely the wrong way to do things. But but I guess if I was new and I didn't know all that stuff, and like maybe I watched like a Magpul video or something, I would think, yeah.
I mean, like I rarely talk to anyone who's probably listened to our show or this show.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just they don't know. It's not their fault, but it's you know, walking them through, like especially the stigmatism thing. It's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, but that's what it is. And it's not, because it always comes across in the ring torque thing too. It always comes across as like we're defending our product and we're trying not to back it up. Or whatnot.
Yeah, it really does. So
if I send you a new one and you do have an astigmatism, it's going to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And you will have been without your optic for a period of time. You'll have gone through this whole process, you know, and you'll be right back at square one.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with scopes too. It's like, dude, you know, your rings are too tight. No, that can't be it. It was professionally installed by a gunsmith. And I kind of cringe when people say that now. But like, yeah, dude, like I can send you a new scope, but that's not going to fix your problem if your rings are jacked up.
Yeah.
You know? So it's really, I mean, that's where the bacon is earned in that line of work, is like trying to talk some of those people down and like get them to be like, okay, this is really what's going on here. I just need you to try this for me.
Yeah, it's education and persuasion skills put to use.
And the other thing a lot of folks don't understand probably, or like the perception of our brand, our being Vortex, is that like, if something goes wrong with your scope, we just send you another one, a new one. Like we huck yours in a pail and then we send you a new one.
Right.
We actually
Which I know that not to be true because
a very large team of very, very talented people who fix your scope. Dude. So they have all the special tools to take them apart. It's like think of like your car dealership. All right. Like
right.
Those guys in the back who like, you know, when your transmission goes out, you don't throw the car away. They take your car apart, they put a new transmission in, and then they give it back to you. And we can do the same thing with scopes. And they're probably, dare I say, even better than when you first got them, when they come out of rifle scope repair. So there's some pretty savvy dudes in there.
Yeah, so, I got to go back there when I met up with Ruben at the Vortex Optics headquarters.
Yeah,
this is actually before you got there, obviously, but went back and checked out where they repair stuff, and I was actually surprised the volume of repair rather than replacement.
Those guys do work. And when they fix it, it's not like Randy takes the gum out of his mouth and like baling wires your scope back together.
Right.
I mean, it's a very white, clean room, you know, where they
they
do clean, all that,
clean tables in there and everything. So the part that impressed me was the like the impact damage. Like people can drop stuff down a cliff and things like that, and instead of, like you said, chucking it in a pail, there are people that are actually able to repair that on site, which is kind of, you know, mind-boggling to me how something can take like that big of an impact, be aluminum and glass, and then be repaired.
Especially on the Viper and the Razor lines, if the outer tube is still intact, they can replace anything that's wrong with that scope.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Pretty much. So, yeah, no, it's pretty impressive. And like one of the, you know, some of my initial training was watching them take scopes apart so they could like show me how they work, you know, and they have the cutaways and everything. And It's really cool. Scopes they're actually a lot simpler than you might think. Like they're kind of like silencers in that like the science is easy, but the details are complicated.
Oh yeah,
scopes they're pretty simple in concept, but of course the minute details, like how they make the lenses, how far they space them apart, what they coat them with, all that stuff is super nerdy. But like the nuts and bolts of how a scope works is actually pretty basic, and it's actually, I mean, it's pretty cool. So but
so career change, riding a desk now, and you've been integrating into the Wisconsin lifestyle with all their cheeses and their
right. Yeah, I
cherry
consumed
colas,
some cheese and an adult beverage before I laid down in my hammock here. So
nice. All right, well, Adam, let's get into our topic here, man. So
yeah,
I tagged you in this post, but
I've been kind of laying low on the social media trying to figure out which way is up, so I missed out on this thread.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one. This had well over 1,000 comments on it, and it actually kept me. I was gonna say kept me occupied, but it distracted me from what I should have been doing for.
It became your full-time job.
It really did. A good 3 to 4 hours. So I actually had to turn this into a show to justify reading every single one of those comments. But but it's also very interesting, right? So let's start off with Dillon's first post that kicked this all off, which is actually pretty interesting. So this is Dillon Easley, former guest on the show. He's been on actually many times. Love to see this guy on the range and everything. So
Dillon's good dude.
Dillon's a great dude. If you're not familiar with Dillon, there's plenty of back shows with Dillon in it. So just go to 3gunshow.com and search Dillon in there, Dillen. And
he likes to poke the bear, but his heart's in the right place.
It really is. And he had, to be honest, Dillon being a pokey guy was less pokey in this than I've ever seen him. He was actually putting everything in.
Our little Dillon's all grown up.
I know. He's getting old. His testosterone's going down, so he's less pokey. But this was super constructive. So here's his original post. Open discussion, and then I think there's 11 periods after that. What rule or rules would you like to see changed in 3-gun? Give your reasoning as well. We have seen rules altered several times due to shooters voicing concerns or shooters becoming new match directors. The one that immediately comes to mind to me, no longer a DQ for a gun done muzzle down with safety off. Slings break and rifle hits the ground, no longer a DQ at most places. All-Star rule: 10-round magazine tube limit for shotguns in TacOps / practical, and they are loaded to capacity. 10+1 or 10+0 with empty chamber. No ghost loading. Reasoning: matches well with both the 24-inch and the 26-inch barrels. Still a quote practical length of gun that doesn't look cartoonish in videos. No issues with dump barrels and tube length. No issues with someone loading more than 8+1 allowed at the start. So, as you can imagine, because that was the original post, a lot of the discussion was based on those few things, right? The relaxing of safety, and the shotgun capacity. So, right off the bat, Adam, what are your initial thoughts on that?
On the 10-round capacity, I guess I agree. I like shooting, ripping through 14 rounds on a 12 gauge. Just makes me all kinds of happy. But I have found it absurd when this trend started taking place. The whole, like, you can start with 9, but you can load as many as you want after the buzzer. I was kind of like, well, I am kind of going to agree with what a lot of people are saying here. And it's like, all right, well, capacity's capacity. Let's decide what it is and let's cap it, Yeah. And I really like, left to my own devices, a 10-round tube is what I would shoot on my shotgun. It's just got, it's got a good balance to it. The tube's still going to take the hit instead of my barrel, but it's, I don't know. I think it's just a good capacity. It's a nice round number.
Yeah, I shot Blue Ridge last year, and they limit it to 8 rounds, right? So the Stoeger M3000 I have has an RCIX rail, 10-round tube on it, and with a 2-round extension, so I can be competitive like everyone else, right? So 12 rounds. So I took that I watched Mark Roth take that 2-round extension off and put a 2-round plug in there, and so now I'm at 8 rounds, right? So so I got to shoot almost 4 stages with almost 3. I don't know. I got to shoot a little bit with the 10-round capacity, and it absolutely did swing better. When you dump it, it's not like you're worried about the thing falling out because the receiver and the buttstock are heavier than the empty tube now.
Correct. Yeah.
And with an 8-round capacity, it was interesting loading because you can't just stuff a quad in there even if you don't need it. You have to make room for the ammunition when you're you start 8+1, and I found myself in a lot of places stuffing 2 as I was running instead of waiting for a spot to load a quad. So changes a completely different game. We're gonna see this a lot in what people have, and I only put down like the initial comments. Like there was many comments on people's comments. So people. I'm gonna discount anyone who says they look cartoonish or it looks goofy. Like who cares? Dude, all of our stuff looks goofy. Okay, well that's one of my arguments. I think it looks cartoonish and goofy, and and from what I can tell, when I talk to people that don't shoot 3-gun, they look at that like I used to look at those race I don't even know what the hell they called them, but the race guns from like the 80s that you would see in USPSA, right? Like they're shooting space guns, and that's not for me because I'm not a space gun shooter guy.
I guess. Okay, but yeah, you sir are a moron. But I could get on board with let's arrive at whatever reasonable capacity is, and that's the capacity.
Yeah, and Dillon made a great argument in one of the threads that I'm totally going to steal from him right now. But one of the things that has always bothered me is why the shotgun starts with less ammunition than everything else. It's not like we ever have. Okay, your pistol needs to have only 8 rounds in it to start, and then you can, reload a magazine right off the bat. You don't do that with your rifle.
I think it started as a loophole that somebody found around 2013, and it just got out of hand.
Yeah. So so I agree.
Yeah.
Let's make a capacity. Let's load to division capacity, and then let's let it rip. And whether that capacity,
for the love of God, yes, you can have one on the lifter. Stop asking.
And for whatever division capacity we choose, let's just let's make it so. The what's it called? The 10 round, the 12 round, whatever. Let's just
make 10. It's biblical.
I like 10. It's there's that whole decimal system works out well with. It's more than 8. It's less than 12. And then, it is metric. And then if you go with a 10 round for TacOps, you can go 8 round for limited. And then obviously in open or unlimited, it's unlimited, right?
Yeah. And you even have enough fingers so you can figure out how many to put in there.
Yeah. I don't even know if we need to do the rest of the show now, but let's...
thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll catch it.
Well, let me read some of these comments. So I kind of lumped these into a few different categories that were super arbitrary just because we were getting started here and I was kind of reading some of the same ones. So I kind of lumped these into categories of divisions, local gripes, mag restrictions, match style, options, PCC, of course, penalties, ridiculous, which I thought was a ridiculous comment. I probably should have called that something else. My bad. And then rules, safety, sportsmanship style, and then the classic trolling. Which what
would Facebook be without trolls?
What would Facebook be without trolls? We almost had an entire discussion that was constructive. But okay, so first let's just start off with the divisions. I'm going to read a couple to you here, and we're going to find a couple themes. I don't think I need to read all of them, but then we're going to discuss them. So,
Okay.
Mike Manzilla says, throw it all out, shoot heads up, no divisions, no restrictions, all out drag race.
Going out on a limb here, Mike Manzella is an open shooter who seeks validation.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but I can quickly see the practical nature of the game going away with that. John Fowler says, I have to throw this out there just because irons. Smiley face. Winky face.
Way to put together a sentence.
Yeah. He didn't start a huge discussion with that one, believe it or not. However,
can't imagine why.
However, when I see people shooting actual irons that are legit, shooting actual irons, like I shot the Magpul Governor's match with Colin Fawson. He won the irons division, which was actual irons, and it was pretty impressive. It was cool, but I think that you're gonna have a hard time getting people off of their Spitfire, right?
Well, here's the deal. All right, like irons died for a reason. Like, and it wasn't some grand conspiracy by the NRA or anything like that.
It's torture.
Like I mean, people in as a whole, the customers, if you will, decided that wasn't fun for them anymore. Vast majority of them, enough to make it, a viable division. Well, so there wasn't much participation in it. Now you also have, on the flip side, you have TacOptics. TacOptics allows magnified optics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, so that puts people with 1x optics at a severe disadvantage.
And those would almost go away.
Yeah, so those people who want to shoot those unmagnified optics, of which, I mean, to give you a perspective, I spend over 50% of my time talking about those products. At work. Okay.
It is the very first thing that people buy.
Very large segment of the market wants to shoot those optics.
It's the first thing people buy. I did the same thing about it.
And limited is a place for them to play. So, it's nostalgic to want to bring back irons, but you know what? If there was a group of people, if there was enough people out there who wanted irons, they would bring it back.
Yep.
They wouldn't need somebody to say it's okay. They would take it by force.
All right.
Just like the 1X Optics guys did from Iron Division. They took it away from the Irons guys. They're like, you know what? There's more of us than there are of you, so we're gonna hang out here now.
You just destroyed one of the arguments I'm gonna use later, so let's move on. Wade Wallazy says, I think practical, and in parentheses says, I'm new, so I call it practical, should be 12 in the tube unless you start with a full tube. Another thought might be a new practical division that allowed red dots on pistols. It is becoming more and more popular. All other practical division equipment rules apply, and like no pistol comps, no box-fed shotguns. So I liked where he was going with that, and he ended up in a terrible place. Wade, sorry, buddy. So the should be 12 in the tube unless you can start with a full tube. That's pretty much just what we said there. Practical division with a red dot on pistol? No, we got open for that. Yeah,
that's open. Open's open. And it's always that like, oh, I'm not going to be competitive in open. Well, it's like, you know what? You're probably not going to be competitive in TacOptics either, because that's where all the really good shooters are, or most of them.
And the whole thing is, like, there are divisions, there are gear requirements. Meet those requirements, right?
Right.
So if you want to bring your carry pistol and it's an Agency Arms tricked out Glock 17 with a red dot on it, that's cool and I'm happy for you, but it's the wrong gear for TacOps. You must shoot open now.
There can only be so many divisions, and we're probably going to arrive at that theme here before too long.
Yeah. Well, and
there can only be so many divisions to have a viable event.
I think there can be a max of 5 from what I've seen. Just number off the top of my head. But the vast majority of the stuff that we're seeing here we'll move a little bit faster here so we can get through a lot of them. But the vast majority of stuff that we see here is going to be based on local matches. So I think a lot of times that we get or at least I know I do. I get stuck in the idea of like, oh, all these big matches like Rocky Mountain 3-gun and Fallen Brethren and Nordic Vortex Trigun and stuff like that. But the vast majority of people shoot local matches. So moving on here, Andrew Bolt, my buddy Drew, says, how about get rid of class except for TacOps, 10-inch shotgun, USPSA, limited pistol rules, and any mag for rifle but no bipod. I can totally get behind that. Brandon F. Hornbake says, I would like to see all class divisions based on age, sex, and occupation removed entirely. It is only divisive in my opinion and has no bearing on the ability to compete with any, or I think he meant any, with any against one another, with the exception of adding addition of a disability division. So
allow me to say this about that.
What's that?
Who cares?
I do. I'm saying it's like the high overall.
They're small divisions for people. I mean, people would do the math and figure it out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cops would all figure out, like, they just want to know, do they have to get a special walk of the prize table or whatever? No. But to like say we're not going to recognize that or we're not going to, contabulate those results, I don't see a viable argument for doing that. It's just a statistic. Go ahead and run it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, Michael T. Wheelock. Also, I think I totally agree because I don't fall into junior, senior, super senior, female, or Leo. So maybe I'd have a different opinion if I did. But moving on here, Michael T. Wheelock says, I would like it if running a red dot on my shotgun did not force me into open division. I say too bad.
I concur.
Corey Shield says, I would like a TacOps division with carry optics handgun. We're noticing kind of a theme here. Rob Malin says, to me, practical TacOps and open have become near blurred. Open hasn't changed. Seems like the practical TacOps division is heavy and too close to what open runs. There is very little that seems practical or tactical about what those divisions can run at times for the health of the game. The division could use some restrictions, in my opinion. And I think that's an awesome topic, but I think we should table it because many other people say that. So let's move on.
I think that could almost be its own episode.
Oh, totally. And it probably have to cover that at some time. But Nick Miller says my vote would be to leave the rules as they are. If restrictions are wanting to be placed on shotguns or any other gun, then create a new division for the 3-gunners to shoot in that wish to participate in this rule set. I see one of two things happening. Either that division will grow because the majority like to have a restricted rule set of that division, or it will die away, or it will die off the way of the dinosaur. Personally, I'd expect it to die off. So Nick just said one of the most reasonable, capitalistic, free market things I've ever said, and it really makes me angry because it's so reasonable, but I disagree with it.
Well, Nick Miller is a very wise man.
He is. Nick Miller's a great dude.
I think you're going to see he's the voice of reason through a lot of these.
Yeah.
Or a voice of reason. I wouldn't say his is definitive. But, the reason there are other divisions is because there are always going to be guys who are going to get together and be like, we should all shoot with this group of equipment. We all have Garands in our safe. Let's go shoot Garands, or whatever.
Well, Nick basically said what you just said about the irons being phased out by 1X optics.
Yeah.
And it is the most reasonable thing, but when you make a division that you call, say you call it like a TacOps Light, where you limit it to like a 10-round magazine in your shotgun and say 40 or 45 round box magazines on your rifle. And those are the only two changes you make. Those are so close to the traditional TacOps that it's going to be very difficult to fill those two divisions.
Right.
Unless you get like trophy hunters or whatever.
Yeah. Nobody likes those.
Right.
But, there needs to be some division. The whole, throw all the divisions out and let's just do one division. That's not realistic. There's still going to be dudes who want to do their own, they want to do something, they want to play by these smaller division rules. And, I find that people who are usually making this argument for only one division are in that majority division and they just want more validation for their win. Yeah. And I just don't sympathize with that, Yeah. So, people, they're just out there having fun, and if there's enough people who want to have that kind of fun, to make it a viable division within the event, rock on.
Well, I totally agree with you, but like I said, if you're talking about making magazine restrictions, you can't start a new division for a magazine restriction because it's like you did motocross, right?
Yep.
So if you what division were you in? What do they call it?
I was in 250.
Okay, so if someone said like, hey, you know what, 250 is just getting real close to whatever the next division up from there is, we need a 245 cc division.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that was actually happening when I was there. The two-stroke.
How did that work out?
Four-stroke revolution was going on.
Yeah.
So people were saying like 4 strokes, it's not fair. Blah blah blah. They're going to totally kill the 2 strokes. Well, guess what? Everyone wanted to ride 4 strokes, so they did kill the 2 strokes, but not because of some government conspiracy by AMA. It's because everyone wanted to ride 4 strokes. So, it's what it is.
I don't know if that's the proper comparison. What I'm saying is like, if you, no, I'm serious. I don't think you're getting it here. So
maybe not.
Yeah. So if you're saying like, hey, look, and this is the argument that I made in the thread quite often was open division, or excuse me, TacOps division is getting too close to open division. And then conversely, or not conversely, but at the same time, limited division is getting too close to TacOps division. So rule restrictions make those divisions actual divisions rather than just, an optic change on your rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I see it now is you could run the same shotgun in limited, in TacOps, and in open. And you can run the same. Yep, and you can run the same pistol, and the only difference is the rifle. In limited, you would run a 1x optic. In TacOps, you would run a multi-power optic, 1x to whatever. And then in open, maybe you would add a red dot to the side of your rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in TacOps, you can even add iron sights to the side of your rifle. And now that makes it even closer to an open rifle, right? Mm-hmm. So the divisions are so close together that it almost makes it not even worth shooting. Whereas if you go to USPSA, a production pistol, and until like the last 2 years when everyone started shooting the Tanfos, a production pistol was vastly different than a limited pistol.
True.
Right? So that's what I'm saying is like if you place, magazine restrictions on shotguns of like 8 in limited, 10 in TacOps, and then open is completely open, and then we'll get to this later. In actually, I should probably just read it right now. But the next person up here is Don Walker, and he said a lot of things. But let's see. So tack irons, he says, irons or a non-magnified red dot on the rifle, 30 round mags, production style pistol. Which I don't know about that. DASA, striker fire, no mag wells, no shotgun extensions. That makes sense. Shotgun has no optic, limited to 9 rounds in the tube. TacOps as above with 1 optic allowed. Must be on the rifle. Same pistol. I disagree with that. And shotgun rules. And then, I don't know, he goes off and rambles there. But some other people made a an argument for 35 round, 45 round, whatever, box magazines. Get rid of the D60 in TacOps because that drum mags are for open. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's like you can't just say what do people want to do.
I do want to talk about the magazines
because people are going to want to just blaze away. That's what people are going to want to do.
Well, let me ask this question: when we talk about splitting up the divisions and one division is too close to the other division
mm-hmm.
Does open division need to win the match?
Well, no.
Because what
I don't think there's a high overall, and I think high overall is the most ridiculous thing ever because we're all running different divisions.
Again, don't care. Yeah,
nobody cares except for the guy that wins high overall.
Well, yeah, but like, what gets me, being as deep into the woods in the sport as I am, like. People are like, well, that division, people shooting that division are too close to people shooting this division when Division B has significantly more equipment advantage over Division A. What annoys me about that is they're completely ignoring the athletic aspect of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Daniel Horner could win with whatever he wanted to. You know, it's the Indian, not the arrow.
Right.
You know, so just because TacOptics shooters are shooting so close to limited, that's because that's where really freaking serious athletes are. And well, truth be told, with a few exceptions, truth be told, most of the guys in open are just old guys with a lot of money to burn.
Right. Or can't see and they need red dots, right?
Well, yeah, and that's not a dig on them. That's just reality.
It's fact of life. It's going to happen to me one day, God willing.
So you can't. We say it all the time in the getting started, conversations. You can't buy skill,
right?
But you can earn skill, and skill applies to anything that's in your hand. So a lot of times where I kind of like blow off some of these arguments is like, well, what if that limited shooter is just really good? You know? Like, I mean, I shoot in the overall, I shoot about where I would shoot. I'm within 10% of where I would shoot in TacOptics when I'm shooting limited. You know, it doesn't make that big of a difference because the equipment isn't what scores the points. It helps, but at the end of the day, the skills, getting the bullets where they're supposed to go, I mean, the fundamentals are all the same.
Well, you know what? Turns out I'm completely wrong on this, and we're going to have to stop this podcast.
Dang it.
I know.
I don't know.
You make a good point, and that's not something that I had considered, the closeness and how little it matters, I guess. I'm playing both sides of the fence there of like I don't agree with high overall as a thing because it's stupid. But then
we're just kind of analyzing the thread. We're not going to come to any sort of conclusion. Certainly not just you and I talking.
Oh shit, no.
And
that's not what we're trying to do.
And that's both sides of the argument, and the community themselves can digest it and see where we as a sport want to go. But let's get both sides of that equation out in the open, and people can see it for what it is. Because I just don't think that side of it comes out very often. Because you make
a really good point there. So I guess the other thing we probably should have said at the beginning, is if you agree or disagree with us, leave a comment wherever you see this, whether that be Facebook, whether that be the Three Gun Show website, Instagram, whatever. Let us know what you think.
And if you staunchly disagree with something we say, hey man, I mean, you got Dave's email.
Yeah.
Come on the show.
Yeah, make a good argument on one of the comments on one of the social platforms or on the Three Gun Show, and we'll talk about it.
But I do think it's interesting what you're saying. What came up about the magazines, because I've been shooting.
Dude, that's our next one. That's our next one.
I've been shooting a 60-round Surefire forever.
Right.
I don't use it all. I don't use it all the time. I do use it. I do use it a lot. I use it a lot of times because it's a good monopod.
Mm-hmm.
But what it did do, and this is the real question, like 60 rounds, 30 rounds, 40 rounds, 45 rounds. The real question is do we want reloads on the rifle to be a viable skill set that you need?
Yes. And
because
I totally agree.
What the big sticks took away was the mandated reload. You never had to think about the reload ever again. You could just put in a big enough magazine.
Well, so last year at Hard as Hell, they had a 52 round stage or something like that, 47 round maybe 50. So it's just outside of a $14 Magpul PMag with your Nordic plus 7-round extension, which is 47, right? So you have to have a Surefire, which I don't know what that costs. You can tell me.
Oh, I think they're about $80, I want to say.
Okay, so you have to have an $80 Surefire.
It's an expensive magazine, I know that.
Yeah, or $125 Magpul D60 to run that stage without a magazine change. So right there, in TacOps, that makes a significant advantage that you can purchase for $80 to $125. right?
Right.
And like, I understand, like, you can purchase a comp, you can purchase a gas block. I mean, you can purchase all the advantage you want, right? But that particular thing, that's one stage in this entire match that's going to cost you $125 if you don't want the disadvantage of making that magazine change. And you shot that stage, wasn't really a whole lot of room to make a magazine change because there was a ton of shooting and moving, right? So that's the kind of thing.
You're talking about the shoot house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the 52 round rifle stage.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that kind of bums me out when we talk about, like, oh yeah, D60 is fine for TacOps. It's like, well, if we had a 40 round restriction or 45 round restriction or whatever it is, then everyone would have to do a magazine change unless someone was good enough to put one in the A zone on several targets, right?
True.
And then that becomes a strategy. And throwing in a D60 is not a strategy.
Becomes a viable strategy.
Yeah.
Here's the flip side, though. Probably not pound for pound, but running those magazines are kind of spooky. There is a little bit of a reliability question mark with running some of those.
Well, I will say that I've used mine all of 8 times in 8 stages at local matches, and so far 100%. Calling it good.
Yep, and a lot of dudes do. But there's a lot of people who have. Throw a comment up on that same Facebook group about Surefire 60 round mags, and you'll get an overwhelming, resounding no, they don't work. I've had great luck with mine, but I take really good care of them. We talked about that before too. Like, I loaded in the hotel room. And
that's right.
Black bag. But so you're kind of taking your life in your hand. There's no free lunch.
Right.
It is an advantage. It's an advantage, or I wouldn't do it. But there's no free lunch. There's always, especially now that they're getting older on the original springs. It's like, is it going to work this time?
Well, and I did see a pal of mine this weekend have problems with his D60 on the very first round after shooting. 30.
They don't all work with all guns. But that's kind of getting off of the the original question. Like, do we want rifle reloads to be a thing,
right,
or not? I could go either way. I really don't care. But that's the question.
I struggle with that too.
Double stack mags. Drum mag. This one came up. Last year at a match. A guy was not allowed to use a drum magazine in TacOps because it was a drum magazine. Mm-hmm. I, however, could use my Surefire magazine because it was a column magazine.
Yes, and that is another tough subject there.
I would call shenanigans on that. Like, 60 rounds is 60 rounds,
right?
In my opinion.
Yes.
But they were letting me use my Surefire, so I wasn't going to ask too many questions because I really wanted to use it. So,
I totally hear you on that one, and it's a tough one. But now that I have a D60, I care less about the round count as long as it's under 59.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so let's move on to our next category, magazine restrictions. Yeah. There are a lot of comments on this one, and we kind of kicked it off there. So I'm going to read a few of these. Aaron Jacoby says 30-round mags and TacOps, leave the drums for open. Austin Tulo says, I'm 100% on board with tube limits anywhere from 8 to 10 rounds total. 12-round clown tube is ridiculous, and I own 2 of them. Jared Bender says, El Prez already said make it so, and then he attached a picture of Donald Trump holding up a signed, what do they call those, presidential proclamation or whatever, with 10 rounds in TacOps.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So President
the man's spoken.
I know.
We just got to get through Congress.
Well, not with the what are those? What the hell are those called? Declarations, presidential declarations, signing statements,
executive orders.
Executive orders. Thank you. Yeah, that bullshit that everyone complains about until it's their guy in charge.
Right.
All right. So
anyway,
Brian Brandow says bigger gap between limited and TacOps, 8+1 max. 30 rounders max on rifle, no extended base plates for pistol mags. I could get behind that. It's like it's basically 3 Nation factory rules. Dan Hott says 8-round shotgun tube limit in practical because quad loads. or 12 anyway. 10 is dumb, and I know because my first tube was 10, and it was dumb, and I always ran the 8 or a +2 cap for 12. Zachary McDonald says 1, 10 shot tube in practical division shotgun. 2, 40 round max for rifle practical. 3, WSP. Written stage brief. Written stage brief should not be able to go against 3-Gun Nation rules or shooting styles.
I don't really understand what he's getting at there.
Well, I'll tell you in a minute. And then 4, fault line and start box makeups should be defined by 3-Gun Nation. Calling foot faults on paint is difficult at best. So 3 and 4, from what I can surmise, are problems with his local club, which I would guess is a 3-Gun Nation club, and they're operating under the 3-Gun Nation rules, and then going outside those. So I would put those under local gripes that we can't help you with here, buddy.
Yeah, it's like rules are the rules. Y'all gotta get together on those and figure them out.
Yep.
But 4, that is actually something I've come across before, in that, I mean, you really do either need to have a raised fault line or a rope.
Yes.
Because I have done the painted line on the ground, and it's kind of a funny story. so that's why I bring it up. But like, I'm throwing together, man. In the past, I've committed to running way too many matches in a season. And so I got like my August effits, and it was just like, all right, here we go. I'm just going to take the orange spray paint, and there's paint a little box here. That's where you're starting. And it was a jungle run type deal. And, we just started shooting. And our friend Brent, who you met, Brent shows up. He starts. He just starts shooting. He runs way over the line, like 3 feet over the line, and shoots. And we're like, the fingers are going up. How many procedurals he's gonna get? Gets to the end, and we like, dude, you got a ton of procedurals. You were over the line, like not even close, dude. He's like, what are you talking about? And we're like, the line, dude. You ran over the. He's like, there's no line. I'm like, dude, the orange line.
Oh, and he can't see orange.
He's colorblind. Cannot see orange. I was like, are you effing kidding me? He whips down his glasses. He's looking. He's like, I can't see. He's like, I'm colorblind as shit. I can't see that. We're like, well, then how did you know where to start? Like, there was an orange box where you started. Like, how did you know where to start? He's like, I just started standing in the hole. Everyone was standing in the hole in the ground. Like, that's where I started. We're like, all right, okay, yep, colorblind's a thing, I guess. Yeah. That was not fair to him.
Yeah,
it was funny, but it was, it really, in a major match, that is a competitive disadvantage. That's not a fair and equal chance to everyone.
It's freaking hilarious.
So I can get on board with number 4 there. Yeah, you either got to have a raised fault line or you got to have a physical barrier.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's see. Moving on. Jared Bender says, I'm 100% on board with the 10-round tube. I'd like to see straight mags only for TAC. I know the Magpul D60.
Well, so we'd have to go back to 20s then.
I know the Magpul D60 is hot, but it's a little too much, I think. I agree, and I love mine. I'm torn on that. Not so much a rule, but a wish. Let's limit slugs to 80 rounds max. I have a rifle for distance. Also totally agree.
Dumb.
What? Oh,
you sir are a moron.
Let's talk about this.
It's a game of marksmanship
with the least marksman-y thing that we own.
Right. So it's hard.
It's ridiculous.
Right. But if you have that in your toolbox, like, how awesome is that?
Well, I mean, I have it in my toolbox. I'm able to shoot, first round hits on slugs. Got my slugs dialed in. It's just stupid. It takes forever. It's dumb.
I'll even say it's fair because no one practices it.
I agree. I totally agree that it's fair. I totally agree that it's fair.
It's like $1 a pull, so nobody practices it. But
I totally agree it's fair. It's still dumb. That is the wrong tool for the job. It's like shooting, pistol targets at, 100 yards.
Well, that goes back to what's the point of the game? Is the game practical, tactical, or is the game a challenge in marksmanship? So I still look at the game as like it's a game,
Yeah, I mean,
so, today the game is a 100-yard slug shot.
You and I have discussed this many times. I prefer to think of this as a game as well. The only time I ever bring up anything practical tactical is when we shoot shotgun slugs way out past where they should be.
and Rob Tate made a real. I think it was even a couple weeks ago. I think he mentioned that on the podcast. He makes the very good case for that match where they were the longest rifle shot was like 75 yards, but they did a 100-yard slug shot or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, okay, but like, no, I mean, as a match director, I am trying to make I'm very wise man, Brian Payne, who you've met, once said, a stage should challenge the prepared shooter. So that's kind of always meant, like, the prepared shooter should be able to make that shot. If the unprepared, if someone says, well, I never shoot slugs, so I can't hit that, I'm like, well, that's your fault. But, the prepared shooter should have a challenge. That challenge may be a 400-yard flasher.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a 50-yard pistol target.
Well, I tell you,
maybe a 100-yard slug target.
I tell you, a 400-yard flasher is a challenge, and it's fun. A 125-yard shotgun slug target is a challenge, but it's not fun.
It is if you hit it.
No, I still hate it. Like, even when I hit it, it's like, this is fucking dumb.
It sounds so cool though.
No, because it's so
throwing a mallet through the air.
It's so far away you can't even hear it. Put those targets at 40 yards and go way fast. Go way fast on them.
Go way fast.
Way fast on them, dude. I tell you what, at the Generation 3 Gun Championship, we shot 6 slugs out over the water. One was like 60. And 5 of them were like 45 yards. And it was just... That was fun.
All right. So, art of the deal. I will concede the long-range slug shots if we can just forget about this long-range pistol nonsense.
Okay.
Like long-range pistol, not fun.
No, it's
in my book. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll keep the slugs reasonable if we keep the pistol reasonable.
I'm totally cool with that. I think I won on both of those.
World peace.
I think that if you look at your pistol, rifle, and shotgun, set, like a tool set, or like golf clubs, you don't get your like you said, your mallet. You don't get your mallet out to drive a nail because that is not the right tool for the job. It's a finish hammer there. It's just because it's more difficult with a mallet doesn't mean that you should use that. It's like the right tool for a 125-yard plus shot is the carbine. The right tool for pepper poppers could be the shotgun, could be the pistol.
As the flip side to that, as the game and the equipment and the athletes evolve, it's getting harder and harder to challenge certain aspects of the guns. So that's where some of those presentations come from, So that's where the 4x4 plates at however many yards and the long slug shots and the really, shooting tennis balls with rifles. It's like we're trying to come up with ways to still challenge the shooter in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Be it practical or not. It's like, if I just go to a hoser match and, I don't want to, there's a continuum of like speed versus challenge and accuracy. I want to be somewhere in the middle. Like I want the competency and accuracy to be a component at speed, but it's getting harder and harder to run that razor's edge as an event promoter to appease both people.
Yeah.
So that's when I use shots like that, that's where it comes from. Because like me, I want the challenge of marksmanship, in a sport that a lot of times can just turn into a hose fest.
Yeah. And I've definitely seen that at matches too.
Really, the hard part for me, like right now in 2017, is challenging the pistol, like trying to have the open options format and drawing out the pistol. because I run at my matches. I run all the targets are optional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, out of that 3-Gun Nation inspired thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the shotgun and the rifle in play for most of the targets, it's like, how do you create a situation where it's viable for some, in the world where 60-round drums are legal? Like, how do you create the situation where someone's going to make the decision that, yep, I'm going to draw the pistol here? That's probably my challenge right now as a match director, because I don't want to say you will shoot this and then you will shoot that and then you will shoot these. I want to leave it open to options, but it's on me. If I'm giving everybody the options, I have to create the situation where it's at least a viable option, or where the pistol shooter can like have a fighting chance against the guys who want to shoot stuff with their shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my demons right now, is the pistol. I don't really have a problem coming up with fun and interesting things for the rifles or the shotguns. But to bring my matches have kind of gotten heavy rifle pistol or rifle shotgun, and I have to figure out ways to bring the pistol back into it.
Yeah, it's funny because when I hear people talking about options, and we'll hear later on if we have time, is people say it turns into a pistol match.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because you're in
Minnesota.
How do you draw that shotgun match? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy. It's really easy to shut down guys who want to shoot all the pistols. You put one clay out there, and then they got to shoot the shotgun.
Right.
But how do you do the inverse with a pistol whilst still giving them a choice? Keeps me awake at night, Dave.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you're kept awake
or maybe
by this.
maybe it's the concoction of caffeinated beverages that I consume. I don't know. It's one of those two.
That or the monster. All right, so our buddy Nick Miller again says, I like 12-round tubes on shotguns, no restriction on barrel length. I don't see why you'd limit that. 12-round TacOps versus some of the 20 or 25-round Vepr mags is a huge difference from TacOps versus open. He's got a good point there. He also goes on to say,
I'm going to make some stickers that say Nick is right.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
I'm just going to start tagging stuff.
Send me one of those. He goes on to say, I could get on board with 45-round restrictions on rifle, maybe a 40-round PMag, but nothing more than that. I do like using a D60 occasionally, but not totally necessary. Leave pistols as is, 140 millimeters. I think there is enough variation between TacOps and open right now. No need to restrict the guns. It just requires the MD, which I think is either medical doctor or match director, to get more creative with stage design and round selections, example, birdshot, slugs, buckshot, etc. My opinion. Damn it. Quit being so reasonable. I want to disagree with you, Nick.
God damn you, Nick.
I know. These are getting repetitive here, but a couple, there's like 20 in here, so I'm just going to read a couple more. Ben McPew on Instagram says, I'm fine with 10 plus 1 if that's what everyone is running in TacOps, but by God, old Johnny Boy is let me try that again. But by God, old Johnny Boy is running a 14-rounder than I am too. It does have advantages as far as loading 8 without worrying about how many shells are in the tube. I don't think it's stupid looking either. I think it's awesome. Smiley face. We aren't Canadian guys. We need to use our God-given capacity rights. TacOps is the only place to use long tubes. Open is pretty much a mag-fed game at this point. Yeah, not true. But
it's the classic arms race.
Yeah,
you have to have one. If you're buying I mean, when I was in retail, guys were like, well, that looks stupid, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I'm just telling you, you want the long one.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't. Like, you don't understand. You want the long one.
Yep.
And he's right. I mean, when the rules were devised, I mean, the Veprs and at the time they were Segas and the R&R guns, like they weren't really. I mean, they were in their infancy.
Right. They were very
at the time, the long tubes that was open.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, open has evolved past TAC optics too. I mean, you're shooting a Vepr.
Yep.
I mean,
all right. So
that's it.
So Jordan Griffith says, so Dylan, you want to take the division that 80 to 90% of people compete in and change the shotgun rule so almost all of them have to go and buy a new shell tube. That sounds terrible to me. What's wrong with the current rule of start with 8 and run it any tube you want.
I mean, we've talked about that one quite a bit.
Talked about that one.
But
A new tube is like $100 or $75, something like that, and you spend way more than that on stupid shit.
Our replacement Nordic tube is $40.
Yeah.
If you use your same nut.
Oh, if you use your same nut, there you go, $40.
Yeah.
So, what's wrong with the current rule set? Start with 8 and run any tube you want. For some reason, I just why would we start downloaded? Why don't we start with 4?
Well, I think what's wrong with it is like we kind of said earlier, it's a loophole that's gotten out of control. Like somebody figured it out, and nobody put a stop to it.
No.
Not even saying that they had to, but like it's just kind of to the point. It's like, well, what are we doing?
The problem
is
come
down this road this far.
The problem is I've seen a lot of people that run matches in here saying like, oh, we don't have one rule book because we like it that way, blah, blah, blah. You'll never get it. It's all on the same page, et cetera, et cetera. Well, like it or not, they're pretty freaking close. I have not.
They are.
I shoot TacOps. The
differences are just annoying.
Exactly. So I've shot 3-Gun Nation. I've shot mostly Outlaw this year. I think I counted 14 matches that were majors that were Outlaw, 1 3-Gun Nation. And then I think 3 local matches or something.
At the end of the day, that's why I root for the 3-Gun Nations and the United Multi-Gun Leagues of the world.
Well, hang on. Let me finish.
It's like...
I haven't changed...
Bring us together.
The point is I haven't changed my gear the whole time. I've just changed the things that I do. Right? So, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool UML's out there. It's cool that 3-Gun Nation's out there doing their thing. I think 3-Gun Nation tried this, bringing everyone together thing a long time ago, and it didn't work out. So, I don't know if it ever will.
Like you asked me on one of the recons, a while back, like, do I read the rules before I go to a match? Like, no, I don't really have to read the rules. I read the sections of the rules that no one can agree on, so I know which ones we're playing by here. But, like, I know what the 180 rule is. We've all pretty much agreed on that.
Yep.
So...
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about match style because we beat that one into the ground. Kurt Ewald says, not really a rule change, but many places have gone way into the area that 3-gun is supposed to be more than competition of shooting and more about how fast or how long you can run, climb, kneel, crawl, and still shoot. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a combination of that.
Damn you, autocorrect.
Yeah, I don't know what he was trying to say there. It is required for you to challenge the proper skills, but it has gone way past that point as at so many matches. Yes, I'm fat and older. Thank you for your honesty. I'm never going to keep up.
We love you anyway.
Yeah, we do. We totally do. I'm never going to keep up with someone half my age anymore if they have any amount of shooting skills, but whatever, just my opinion. So, dude, what's your
point?
What you thought on that, man? I got thoughts. What's your thoughts?
What's his point? Like the game has evolved to the point where I'm not good at it anymore.
Well,
is what I heard.
So what I would say on this, that could definitely be it. But it could also be like, hey man, y'all are serving key lime pie here, and I don't like key lime pie. Well, that's cool because there are 13 other different types of pie that you could choose. They're just different matches. And
the market's kind of spoken. Like the game hasn't gone this way because of some evil plot.
I would say if you don't want that type of match, like if you have a bad knee or you don't get around so well, or maybe you're a little husky or whatever, you could seek out matches that would not be a big deal, right? Like 3-Gun Nation, they don't do the Blue Ridge style where you got to climb up walls, climb down walls, get on a slack line and shit like that. It's not like hard as hell, right? So there are options out there for you. I would say that, if you're
Zombies in the Heartland.
Zombies in the Heartland. If your reference is like your local club and they're doing that, maybe try to find another local club. But there are major matches out there that will suit anyone's preferences.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game has gone in that direction because there's a sizable amount of us who seek that out. I mean, when I first got started, the reason we've talked about this before, it makes economically and logistically no sense for me to go to Iron Man. But I would go to Iron Man because that is the only place that you can go to do that.
Right.
It was over the top. Same thing with Task Force Dagger. I would go to hell and back to go to wherever Task Force Dagger is going to be. I would go because it was an awesome match and it was over the top, doing all that shenanigans that we can't do at our club matches. When I travel to a match, I expect something more than I can get at a club match, and as club matches evolve, that's getting harder and harder to do. But there's my age group, our age group, the millennials, that's what we're seeking out,
Right.
And so, they've tried some of these get back to basics or, back to what it was matches, Resurgence being one of them. They weren't terribly successful.
Right.
That's just capitalism.
Yeah.
Not saying that there isn't room for folks who want those matches, but you got all corral together and make a match because, at the end of the day, it's a lot of work to put one on, and match directors are going to do what they think is going to attract the most people. So,
yeah, totally agree. All right, so our next category is options, and
yeah,
the first one is from Jonathan O'Brien. Not really a rule, I guess, but I'd like to see more freestyle as far as what targets I can shoot with each gun. I get not shooting steel with a rifle under a certain distance, but don't tell me what I have to shoot and when. And
here.
What? Yeah. Next one is from David Marlowe Jr. I agree with others who say options on which target can be engaged with gun or ammo type should be more prevalent. I thought Brian Corey did a spectacular job of shoot for the gold this year with his placement of just a handful of clays on each stage that make folks think real hard about which gun to use and where. And I absolutely agree on this one.
Did you shoot that match?
Shoot for the gold? No.
Oh.
I did shoot 7 other Brian Corey matches this year, though.
It is kind of a theme.
Yeah.
I've shot a lot of Brian Corey matches too.
Yeah, and I love it. It's let's see, Texas 3-Gun Championship was run by Brian Corey. There was a lot of options there. There was some options at Pro-Am that if I had to do again, I would have done completely different. But that's the cool thing about options is it's you lean on what you think are your strengths at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thumbs up. I would agree there. Adam, our next category is PCC. Pistol caliber carbine.
So we're going to breeze over the options? Or?
Oh, unless you have something more to say. Those are the only two that we have.
Well, I think our thoughts on the options things are pretty well known. I'm all about it, and I've pretty much exclusively gone that way. I don't even really do written stage briefs anymore on a week-to-week basis because it's like, you guys, these are the rules for every stage. Start anywhere you want and do whatever you want.
Well, so let's, I guess, if you want to hit that, let's hit that Jeff Kirkwall Memorial match. You had one stage brief for the entire match.
Yep, and I put it on YouTube.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Start in any box and...
Yep. Start wherever you want. Start anywhere with anything. And I, just kind of laid down which targets can be shot with which. But I'm in fairness, and I'm probably not going to do a good job. I'm going to try and make the case for the other guys because there are guys who don't like that style.
Okay.
And that kind of comes from the guys who don't like the quote unquote gamers. We talked about that in the governor's match.
We did, yes.
No gamers. We don't like gamers. We want it to be shot this way. So there's where we talk about the continuum between athleticism and marksmanship, there's also a continuum between cleverness versus execution. And I think there is a posse out there, and a lot of it is this, the guys we were just picking on in the last segment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't want the winner to be the guy who figured it out. They want the guy who shot it the best.
Right.
So there is a desire from some folks for matches where it's like, nope, this is the thing that you're going to do. Who can do this the best? And I shy away from those matches. I don't seek them out, but there are a lot of people who do like those matches. They like that format of, all right, we're not, it's not because they see the gaming as like cheating, it's like,
right.
no, this is what we're going to do. Who can do this the best, and
right.
So, and there's room for that in the sport too. But I think that's the two sides of the conversation that can be had on that topic.
So it's interesting. And I guess I struggle with that because, it is it is a shooting competition, but I also look at it as each stage is a problem that needs solving.
I do too. I don't agree with that logic. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate there.
Right.
I do like that this is a problem that I have to solve.
Yep.
I have 3 clubs in my bag of golf clubs, and I can how am I going to apply those tools to this situation? That's what I like to do. Those are the matches that I seek out.
Right.
Just wanted to address that topic adequately so we don't get blamed for breezing over it.
No, I think you covered the other side pretty good. That's one thing I'm not very good at. So thank you for doing that. So moving on, PCC. We have 4 comments here. Let me read all 4 of them, and then we'll get into it. So Glenn Papp says, I would institute a new rule where if you shoot PCC and 3-gun, you have to wear a rainbow flag, cape, or DQ. That almost went into the trolling category, but it seems pretty legit. So next one.
I mean, we make fun of PCC guys, but it doesn't make you gay. Sorry.
No, not at all.
They're still shooting guns.
Exactly. So William Turner says, tighter rules on PCC. I've seen 3-gun matches turn into 2-gun matches over the past year or so, unless shooters are mandated by the course description to shoot their pistol. Chris Strabela says, first thing we do is get rid of whiny PCC shooters and go back to open and TacOps. Eric Dewberry says, change...
Wait, are the PCC shooters really the ones who are whiny?
I don't know if I should comment on that. Yes?
Okay. Just gonna pull the pin on that one and throw it in the room.
It could be the crossover from USPSA, but yes, I've seen a lot of whining from PCC shooters. However, a mutual friend of ours pointed out to me that a lot of it was from a Facebook group that describes itself as a PCC group, but is in fact a trolling group disguised as a PCC group, and that's like their objective is to basically tear down their own house, which is weird. So, last one here is Eric Dewberry.
Those people need a hobby.
They do. Eric Dewberry says, change the PCC rules back to the way they originally were. If it's not a clay, it can be shot with PCC. So, I totally agree with Eric Dewberry. I would also agree with William Turner. And I don't know about Chris Strabela. In 3-gun, I would totally agree. But here's what I would say. And I commented on one of the comments with this. And then I realized later that I'm pretty sure I stole this from Chad Francis. But just make the PCC a rifle and have them shoot the same rifle targets. And if there's a 450-yard rifle target, then either they shoot that target or they get a 15-second penalty, and then that will solve itself. All the concessions and stuff for PCC and 3-gun, I think, pushes 3-gun back. However, an all-PCC match is fun as hell.
A lot of people have been telling me that. I still don't believe it. But Ruben, my good buddy Ruben, tells me that PCC is the hotness, and maybe he's going to convert me over the winter. I don't know. But, I don't like the concessions for PCC. It's kind of like,
it's training wheels.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like the political issue that one of the first comments alluded to. Is like, I'm here, so you have to deal with me.
Yes.
It's like, no, I don't.
Yes.
So I don't agree with that. And then, at the time when that first came on the scene, it was like, all right, this is financially motivated by some sponsors of the series, like they're trying to make this happen, and nobody's answer to a question nobody asked. We turned out to be wrong, but it's like, so I kind of heard two flip sides in there, and I'm terrible with names, so I'm gonna mix them up. But there are the guys who are saying PCC should go back to the way it was, where you can shoot anything with a PCC unless it's a clay.
Mm-hmm.
And to that I say yes. To the people who are like, well, PCC is just a rifle, and if you don't like it as a rifle, and if it's a disadvantage, it'll take care of itself. Okay, well, that's trying to kill the division.
All right.
Which we've established now, over this length of time that it's been in the game, that no, there really are people who really want to shoot these guns, so we should find a way to include them. There should be a place for them to play with these guns.
I disagree. It should be a completely different match.
Be it in this sport or another sport.
It should be another sport. It should be another match.
Cool.
It's completely different.
Cool. I'm totally on board with that. I'm not, however, going to run any of those matches. I have enough to do.
I'm totally going to go shoot them though, because it's fun.
What I did, I mean, me, I like to party. Open's open.
Right.
Well, let's make it 4-gun. If you want to shoot PCC, freaking go to town. If it's the right tool for the job, use it. And if it's not, well, you got your bottleneck rifle over there too. Why don't you shoot that?
Yeah. So I kind of like that.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I kind of like that too. And that, so I haven't shot UML. I've had a couple buddies tell me about it, and it sounds like that's kind of the same thing, right? Where you just go to the stage and you figure out what's the proper tool for the job. You look at it as like your golf clubs. You select those tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not going to make an accommodation for you, but if you want to use it, you want to shoot open, go ahead. Or
I don't like the accommodations.
I don't like where it's no, you have to shoot it as a rifle, or you have to shoot it as a pistol, or like we're in written stage or like target designations. Like if your written stage brief is more than one paragraph, which is 4 to 6 concise sentences, it's too complicated.
Yeah, I
nobody's
totally agree.
Paying attention anymore. So
I'm okay with it taking.
Keep it simple.
I'm okay with it taking place of a pistol as far as poppers and paper, because that's really fun. I'm okay with it taking place of rifle as far as paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it taking place with of shotgun as far as poppers and knockdowns and stuff, because that's cool too. But when you get to like a 300-yard or 400-yard target, and now like, okay, well, the match director has to set some extra targets out there, but they're only going to be 100-yard max. They got to be this size. Now you're making concessions, and they're not shooting the same match. So
I don't want to bring in the rifle targets for the PCC guys.
Yes. So either you shoot
I like the shotgun, so I don't really care if they're whining that they can't shoot all the shotgun targets with the PCC.
So either you shoot the same match as everyone else, or bring a rifle. You know? So I
or go invent PCC and give it a sexier name that's less syllables.
Yeah, and there's a ton of people that are doing that right now, and so I would say
yes, there are.
Maybe have some patience, and it'll come. But 3-gun is not the right place to play. And this coming from a guy, you saw me struggle through a PCC match when I was shooting the 3-gun Nation Southwest Regional.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to run them out of town, but I don't have to, like, if you want to play 3-gun, you're here to play 3-gun. And if you want to play 3-gun with a PCC, we'll figure out a way to do that. But we're not going to reinvent 3-gun just so you can shoot your PCC. I'm not about that.
I totally agree. And I think what needs to be done is PCC shooters to unite and create some sort of league or something like that. And I think that would be cool as shit, because shooting all PCC matches, as I found out at the Lucas Oil PCC Championship, is a ton of fun. It's great.
Yeah, I think there's enough of them out in the open now that they're gonna like get into a corner somewhere and be like, all right, guys, so these 3-gun people don't get us, and USPSA certainly doesn't get us. So what are we about?
Well, here's what I find out though is that the from what I've seen, the PCC shooters in USPSA, they get hounded by USPSA, right? But they think that
it's super not cool how USPSA treats PCC.
But
as a community, like, shame on you.
I totally agree. And their perception, because they came from USPSA, is that 3-gun style outlaw matches are so outlaw that it can't even be shot. You shouldn't even go there. It's so outlaw. It's like, put your daddy pants on. Come on.
Like, yeah. The grown-ups are talking, so
yeah, seriously.
But I mean, here you'll appreciate this. I like to shoot guns, so indoor league has started here. I just went for the first time last week, and I asked Ruben. I was like, "Can you shoot 2 guns?" Because like I'm training up, so I want to shoot my pistol. Like I'm going to shoot limb and limb 10, so I can like pull the trigger as much as I can.
Right.
He's like, "Yeah, man." And so we go to sign up. And Ruben's like, "You can shoot PCC and a pistol, right?" And the guy's like, "Yep." And I was like, "Hey, can I shoot 2 pistol divisions?" And he's like, No, you can't do that. I'm like, "What?" I could just tell there's no negotiating this with this guy. So you could see my options, David, are shoot 1 gun or shoot 2 guns, and to shoot 2 guns, one of them has to be a PCC, so you know what I'm gonna pick.
You're gonna get a PCC.
I'm gonna borrow a PCC until the one that I'm buying gets here.
Nice.
And maybe in the spring I will come out of my cocoon and I will just be a PCC butterfly.
Right.
But I don't know. It's a long way from here. I'm not there yet. Maybe if they let me shoot silencers, then I'll be down with it.
All right, so there are there's one category left. So let's cover this one pretty quick here, and I guess we don't need to cover this quick, but let me go through the comments on it. And this one is safety. Austin Tulo says, "I don't agree with gun off safe equals no DQ. The mental awareness required to safely dump a gun needs to be emphasized, not dumbed down. My local scene is getting a little scary." Mark Passamanic says, "Start to actually follow the 4 rules of gun safety. Sweep someone, DQ no matter what. 10 rounds for tac limb shotguns, 30 rounds for mags for tac limb rifle. Open is really open." Brad Hall says, "Working grip safety equals safe condition." Assuming he means pistol abandon there. Chris Anderson says, "I feel like people are putting way too much effort into making safety violations no big deal. Safety was bumped off. Sounds like the beginning of a story of how someone got shot. We can still go plenty fast and be safe at the same time. That should always be the number 1 priority. People getting hurt will end this sport faster than anything," which is a very, very good point. Phil Harding edited his comment, but it started out with, "I'd like to see chamber flags become a strict requirement." It says C below.
Disagree.
So his comment was basically he wants to make it okay for people to sweep each other in the parking lot if they're like putting their guns in their gun carts and stuff like that.
Is that what we're talking about?
That was what he was getting at. And the reason for the chamber flag is so you can see that it's safe from a distance. So he got ripped apart in the comments on that and kind of backpedaled a little bit.
Okay, so his butt already hurts, so I'll leave him alone.
Yeah, go ahead and leave him alone on that one. But I think everyone just said, look at the four basic gun rules, right? So Josh and Jess Loganville, which
is Josh?
No, I think Josh is too busy, so this is probably Jess. Jess says,
"Oh, really?"
No, I'm kidding.
I'm sorry, Josh.
With regards to using 2011 grip safeties as sufficient safeties, would an 80 series pistol be legal due to passive safeties, where a 70 series gun is not? Is an 80 series pistol not the same as an XD or Glock or M&P? For those that don't know, an 80 series pistol has a firing pin safety that is depressed when the trigger is pulled. Any thoughts? And those are our safety comments.
Okay, it's not interesting, so I'll just knock that one out right out of the way. 80 series, grip safety, all that stuff. Anyone who actually like tries to debate that doesn't really understand how they mechanically work.
A grip safety?
Yeah. Like how much metal is actually like keeping it from going off.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's just like a small little leaf spring, right?
Yeah, so there's that. And my real question would be, how do we test it? How do we know that your 80 grip safety or your Series 80 safety is working?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that your Glock safety is working, for that matter?
Yeah, especially
some of these
like
raced
triggers.
out Glocks. I'm sorry, not all the safeties work on those. But how do you test it in a fair and objective way? I don't know. But I mean, guys, you're going to shoot a 2011. You got plenty of advantage over guys with the Glocks, or, with striker fired trigger systems. The safety is the great equalizer, and it's not that big of a deal. I'm sorry.
Have you ever heard of a guy named James Casanova?
I have.
So I took a class from Mark Pasmanic, James Casanova one time, and when I was chatting with when I was on James' side and doing his little stage, the idea of clearing a 2011 came up, because at that time most people were still shooting the striker fire pistols in 3-gun. James was shooting his limited.
It was
pistol.
a simpler time.
It was a simpler time. So he said, "Well, you dump your pistol, and I will dump mine." And so it was ready, set, go. I reached down, I dumped my Glock, and he had his dumped before me. And what he did was drop the magazine, clear it around, and dropped it in the pail. Mm-hmm. And granted, this is several years ago, so I was new at it. I wasn't just like tossing it in the barrel like I am now. But he demonstrated that you can absolutely clear a pistol in a quick and expedient manner on the clock.
It's a technique.
Yeah.
And, so I'm not going to apologize. If you're going to cry foul because you don't have a technique, you haven't learned to do something. I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for you.
So recently I've seen a lot of people complaining, the dump bucket knocked my safety off of my pistol. This, that. It's like, well, tough shit. You should be lucky you only got a penalty on that stage, because when I started, that's a DQ. It's an unsafe act.
Well, yeah. So there's a couple things that go into that. One would be, and the one that I would say is one of the advocates for why the rules are the way they are, is there's no consistency in how those props are constructed.
Right.
So, it's kind of the Wild West as far as dump receptacles go, and some of those are prone, or they are set up in a way that you stand a pretty good chance of your safety getting snicked. Mm-hmm. But I would also say that there are ways you can dump your 2011 that protect the safety. So yes, if you throw your 2011 into a box or something that's set up, and primarily the ones that are, I would say a good example of this are like the ones that the 5-gallon pail with a piece of wood in it.
Yeah.
A slotted piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
If you just toss your, I'm using that term for the visual, like you just toss it in there, like you flick your wrist and you let go. So the muzzle's going in, yes, your pistol is going to kind of have a roll to it, a forward roll to it. Depending how that box is made, how the material is, what kind of paint they used and whatnot. Yeah, your pistol is rolling in the direction that makes it pretty possible for something to interfere with the safety.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you throw it the other way, I use the term throw loosely. If you put it, if you let go of it so that the bottom of your pistol is more the angle of the rotating against the direction of the safety, it can drag on the safety all it wants. It's just going to push it up further. So you as a competitor can protect yourself from these devices by the technique that you use. Now, yes, if you're careless and you throw it in there, yes, you stand the risk of your safety getting snicked off. However, you as an intelligent person could also realize that this is a risk you're taking, and you could take technique measures to protect yourself from it.
All right.
So
rather than being a victim and saying, "Oh, it was the dump bucket."
Yeah, if you just go caveman on it, yes, you absolutely run the risk of your safety coming off. You absolutely run the, I don't really, how many pistols have gone off in dump buckets? I mean, I'm sure there's some, but it's not very many. Because you still got to pull the trigger. So, I see both sides. The reason I would support it not being a DQ is in the world of the major match. I mean, you think of the guy who came, he paid his fee, flew all the way across the country.
Dude, I don't think a dollar investment counts for safety.
No, but okay, but so you're gonna shut down this guy's match because potentially a faulty prop. Put him in a compromising position. Mm-hmm. I can see both sides of it, but it's like if you're gonna shut down a guy for something like I don't see I guess here's where I'm coming from. I don't see the gun sitting in the barrel with the safety off as inherently dangerous.
It's true.
Because the gun still needs to get manipulated to shoot. That's why I don't think it should be a DQable offense. Now, I don't think it should be so lax that there is no incentive to get it right, which, we've seen examples of that too, where it's like, okay, well, there's no danger here, so I don't have to be careful. That's not true either. I still think it should be a harsh penalty, but I don't think it should shut you down.
So what's harsh?
It's an excellent question, David.
and then I have a follow-up.
I think, for the sake of conversation, I don't think it should stop your match, but I think you should drop 10% in that match finish, in that stage finish.
Stage DQ, 30-second penalty?
I mean, a 30-second penalty is a pretty big penalty. A 60-second penalty is a pretty big penalty, but you still have a score.
Right.
You still have a score, and you can still come back from that.
Well,
it's hard, but you still can. I don't think you should get shut down and go home.
So, what then? What do you think about an AD in the dump barrel?
Well, AD is an AD.
Okay, so DQ, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what do you think about, well, this guy traveled several thousand miles to get here. He spent X amount of dollars on this match. He brought all his ammunition with him. He has a 3-day kitchen pass. Let's let him shoot for no score.
Faulty equipment.
Let's let him shoot for no score.
No.
No?
No.
Tell me why.
Because while the pistol or the gun sitting in the dump receptacle is not in and of itself
situation dangerous. I'm talking about is a long gun.
Yeah.
Because I saw this happen. But
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I've been at matches where the shotgun went off too. But so I mean, we're running on the ragged edge, right? I mean, some of these triggers we're running, they're right on the edge of working, but not working. Depending on who did that particular system. The gun sitting in the ground in the receptacle with the safety off is conceptually dangerous. The gun going into the receptacle and discharging around, that is actually dangerous.
I gotcha. So
that's where I would draw the line. And so
I agree on that, but
you as a competitor, it's on you to make sure that your gun is safe to go into a barrel and get jarred enough that it's not going to shoot. This would be that's my thought on it, I guess.
So then let's go to the letting the guy shoot for no score. I have my own thoughts on this, but why would you or why would you not let him shoot for no score?
Well, like, I mean, the whole DQ and you're done thing is meant to be. It's meant to be, scary. It's meant to be serious enough that, like, no, you really need to adhere to these rules, or you can't shoot with us. And if you cross that line, you can't shoot with us. So it behooves you to make sure you're not only on this side of the line, but maybe a step or two back from it.
Mm-hmm.
Is where I'm at. I mean, because I've had to make that decision as a match director who is also in the business of firearms and stuff. I had to DQ one of my best customer.
Oh yeah,
very best customer. I had to DQ him at a match, and then my partner came up to me and was like, "Well, can he still shoot for fun?" And it's a Wednesday night. It's just a Wednesday night league, but it's like, no, a DQ is a DQ.
Yeah,
you did the thing that you can't do. And you're on timeout now. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is the penalty. So if you don't want that to happen to you, you as an adult need to make the decision that I'm going to for sure stay on this side of the line, because the other side of the line, what happens when you cross the line, is unthinkable.
I totally agree, man.
I would land on that. But I did a lot of talking. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on this?
No, I totally agree. I've seen it way too many times where. And by way too many, I mean less than one hand if I'm counting by hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where someone will DQ for a super safety infraction and not like a, safety off in the dump barrel and nothing happened. But then, someone will take into account, their time or dollar investment and then let them continue to shoot. And
that's where, like, I think the penalties that should shut you down should be serious enough that you're done.
Yeah. Well, and in both cases,
like, it shouldn't be like, oh, well, I know it was that one thing. Sorry, man, that's just how it goes. Yeah. But you can still shoot.
Well,
like,
and
no,
in both cases,
you can still shoot.
In both cases, I was on that person's squad, so now you have to worry about is this person going to put a hole into someone else in the match? And if they do, then when the cops come, what do you tell them? Like, oh yeah, this guy committed a safety infraction, and then we let him continue to shoot, and then he shot someone.
Yep. Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one to explain.
Yeah, and I've made other decisions based on that. I mean, and that's kind of the crap you get. Like, if you've never run a match, that's the side you don't have to think about, but somebody has to. Like, yeah, when the EMTs show up, what are you going to tell them? And if you can look them in the eye and say, yeah, this is what we did, and this person didn't adhere and it got out of hand, that's one thing. But it's like, no, if you created an unsafe condition, there's lawyers out there, man. They're hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, so we took this one. We took this one pretty serious, Adam. Let's
tired of talking about that one.
So that's our last one. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one more. Sportsmanship.
There's one more.
Sportsmanship.
Oh, okay.
And then then we'll get to the fun one. So sportsmanship. Don Finkbeiner says, I agree with those rules. Maybe a 12-round rule tube limit for a wider separation of divisions. And as much as it pains me to say this, there is a growing trend of tolerating unsportsmanlike conduct at some matches that might need a couple of hardline rules to correct. So I think that I've seen some unsportsmanlike stuff over the last year. Most of it has been arguing with ROs, and then hardline rules to correct. Like, in every rule set, there's a sportsmanship clause.
It's like, I don't think we need a new rule. I think those rules are in place.
Yeah, I think people are afraid to use it.
Having the rule and having the stones to enforce that rule.
Yeah.
Are two different things.
Well, it's like we were just talking about in safety. Like, someone spent a significant amount of money to get to this match. You don't want to eject them just because they're an asshole. But on the other side, it's like, we don't want them here. Well, and that my perspective is the exact same as yours. Like, yes, we don't want people like that at our matches. But
the reason it gets
everyone's afraid of social media and Facebook that they're going to get torn up on Monday. Well, you know what? I will back any match director that ejects someone for getting into it with an RO.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the reason maybe some of these cases even come up is sometimes it's the perpetrators are people who should be held to a higher standard in the first place.
Yes.
But at the same time, they are harder for the event staff to throw out because those choices have consequences.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they absolutely do. Like whether it's like their sponsor pulling sponsorship or whatever, or just knowing like, oh, it's
a crappy position to be in.
They ejected famous shooter guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's no excuse. I mean, none of us are making a full-time living at doing this. So like, we're not getting paid enough to put up with your crap. Yeah. You're still expected to show up and be a decent person. And if you're not, then you're not welcome.
And this world is too small to allow that,
Right.
It's not like you can just like, oh, well, I'm going to, not shoot the matches that guy shoots because there's only so many matches out there.
Yeah, man. And if you're that person having that conversation with that RO in this day and age, assume that you're being recorded.
Yes.
You talk about the range officials getting lambasted on social media. How would you like to be the shooter who got recorded saying that to somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. It's not that far out of plausibility.
Yep.
Look at what's happening in law enforcement these days. Those guys are held under a very critical eye because they always get recorded. Well, I mean,
body cams.
Remember
for ROs.
that goes both ways. It goes both ways. Everybody's got a phone, and if you're thinking that somebody isn't going to get you on film in your colorful shirt tearing down a volunteer who's sunburned and dehydrated, it's not a good look for you. It's not worth the risk. I wouldn't think it's worth the risk. But
exactly. All right. Well, Adam, let's cover the fan favorite here, the trolling category.
The Dave factor.
This is not the Dave factor.
No. Well, it's fun factor.
So I was pretty active in this thread, and I guess I did kind of make some silly comments here and there, just of.
How could you not?
Well, some people say some weird stuff, so it's like, have you ever actually shot a 3-gun match before? But
yeah, do you have a 3-gun, bro?
Yeah, and if you haven't, that's fine. But don't make wild proclamations if you haven't.
Maybe listen.
Yeah. All right. So Matt Kupica says, "I'm confused as shit, so I have a new rule: call it tack irons, tack optics, and open instead of practical and whatever else." Bob Jensen.
Matt, just put it on a spreadsheet and it'll all work out.
Bob Jensen says, Chris Strabela, look at this IDPA bullshit. Jonathan Deerking says, one rule that always baffles me, why is the 60-round Surefire mag legal in a lot of TO rule sets, but the D60 isn't? I love my D60. And I disagree with any tool tube length limits in TO. Want to slow a person with a long tube down, give them a smaller dump barrel. Right, Ian and James? Which I don't agree with. I don't think you'd want to give anyone a smaller dump barrel.
Jonathan, come back to Wisconsin.
And create an unsafe situation. Jody Chitwood says, and I totally agree with this one, by the way, bump anyone quad loading into open.
Don't hate the player.
Let's see. Mark Passamatic says, how about minor unsportsmanlike behavior? You get to clean the porta potties. Better than DQ.
I mean,
I told Mark just to DQ me at that point.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
I'd rather have the DQ. All right. Let's see.
You brought up minor, though. How about this?
Yeah.
There's major minor power factor in USPSA.
Shut your face.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, think about it.
No, that's a terrible idea. Power factor is the worst thing that's ever happened to anything, ever.
Between divisions, though? You want to talk about separating divisions?
power factor is ridiculous.
Is it though?
That's a whole nother show. We're gonna have to table that one.
Power factor on rifles, man.
Well, on rifles, man. No, shut up. Okay, we're gonna. We'll have to do that. I'm gonna get
7.6239 and blackout in here somehow.
Oh man. Okay, we'll write that one. We'll write that one down for future shows, like we had before we started here. All right, Chris Anderson.
Put it on the list.
It's on the list. Chris Anderson says, I think there should be time added to the make ready for selfies and Instagram posts prior to the buzzer. # style points.
I think Chris Anderson should shoot a match once in a while.
I saw him at Generation 3 Gun last year, and now it's been one entire year that I haven't seen him at a match.
It's probably drinking pina coladas with Jesse at his cabin.
Fun fact, Chris Anderson, engaged to be married. He said that I'm his good luck charm because the podcast that he did with me, the interview he did with me, he told a young lady that he had just met, I got to go to this podcast thing, and then I'm going to dinner. And it made him sound, real professional and real important. And now he's going to marry her.
Well, that has not worked for me yet.
All right, Chris Stribla says, why don't we make every stage of Virginia count? Then you guys wouldn't have to worry about magazine length or how many rounds your shotgun holds. Badgering the shooter should be legal. That would show who the real talented shooter is.
Boo that man.
Greg Smith says, just here trying to bump the comment count to 1,000. Oh, and flamethrowers should be in a division.
Noted.
Yeah. Jeremy Moore says, I should read every comment to learn, but out of vacation days.
Well, Jeremy, you're just going to listen to the show, and we'll have broken it all down for you in a concise 2-hour time slot.
That's exactly what I told him in the comment. I'm like, cool, I'll just make a podcast for you, buddy. Kurt Gruber says, congrats on an epic Jesse thread, Dylan. I think it accomplished nothing but was entertaining. So, Kurt Gruber's my boy. He and some other great people put on a great match in Texas, but I would say that you should probably listen to all the comments in the thread because that's the customer base, right?
Man,
so
if you think this thread accomplished nothing, you weren't listening.
It's free market research, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got 1,000. Dylan asked one question and he got 1,000 comments on it of what people actually do want in a match. And granted, there's a lot of trolling and a lot of argumentative people who don't want to buy a $40 magazine tube because they need to have a 10 round instead of a 12 round or whatever, But people are just throwing out ideas on how to improve the game that we all love, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, I mean it's gonna get kind of loud and rowdy, because we're all here to have fun. But no, these are real discussions that we should have once in a while.
Yeah.
We should take a bearing check on all right, well, we've been and the shotgun tubes are a perfect example. We've been going in this direction because nobody really asked the question.
Because inertia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it just got a bunch of inertia behind it. And then,
I know guys that have 14 round tubes just because they're way taller than me.
And then all of a sudden here we are and we kind of looked around. It's why are we doing this again?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so maybe everybody can be like, well, yeah, I like 10 round tubes. You like 10 round tubes. We all like 10 round tubes. We just have 14 round tubes because everyone else does. Let's all go back to 10 round tubes, and
yeah, well,
that's the only way that stuff happens. So.
It's like Ben McNew said, I'll go with 10 round tube, but if everyone else has got a 12 or a 14, that's what I'm going to run because I don't want to be a disadvantage, right?
Yeah, no, I've already got mine. I've been saving it for the day when it comes back.
Nice.
I keep it cleaned and oiled, and so it doesn't degrade with time.
All right, well, Adam, this has been a lot of fun, man. This thread was kind of interesting. The discussion that you and I had was even more interesting to me, anyway. We'll see if anyone else likes it. But if you feel passionate about this topic that Adam and I were just talking about, let us know in the comments. Clearly, there are a lot of people that have a lot of vested interest in this. This is a game that we all love. We're all trying to improve it, so with the best of intentions in mind, let us know what you think. On Facebook, on Instagram, on 3gunshow.com, wherever is most convenient for you. Adam, any final thoughts on the shenanigans that we just saw here?
No, I think we covered it very well.
Well,
like I said, I mean, I kind of missed it when it was on Facebook. I kind of wish I could have watched it unfold, but
yeah. Well, again, it took away 4 hours of my life, so I'm glad to condense it with you here.
Well, now 6. So,
well, in 4 hours, kind of a misestimation, but
yeah, no, but I mean, it's good. It's all good stuff, and I think some of that stuff should get out in the open. We should talk about it once in a while, so some people can know why we do it. Or, I mean, if we've gone off the rails in some way, maybe we can start taking the motions to get it back in check. So
yeah, well, and talking it out with you changed my mind on a couple things. So it's not like we all have these super firm positions. We just want to make the sport and the game better for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I want nothing more than for the sport to grow, so that there's more and more diverse ways to shoot 3-gun.
Yep.
So.
Well, Adam, this has been great, man. Thank you for being a part of the show. As always, this has been a great time, and really appreciate your input, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dave. It's always good to talk to you. It's on and off the mic, as we've established.
Yep.
So.
All right, and for the listeners, before you take off, check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 154 to links to things that we discussed in the podcast, including the Facebook group that we're discussing here. You can also sign up on Patreon as a 3-Gun Show supporter to purchase your very own 3-Gun Show logo tee from the show notes there. Adam has been on many Patreon shows, and we do all kinds of match recon stuff there. So if you enjoyed this, you will definitely enjoy that. As always,
we got more coming.
We got more coming, dude, as always. All right, this podcast is brought to you by Armalite. Armalite has allowed me to get special pricing for listeners on their line of 3-gun rifles, both the 13.5 and the 18-inch, as well as their competition handguards, gas blocks, and tunable muzzle brakes. If you're in the market for a rifle or components to build your own, email me, dave@3gunshow.com, and I'll hook you up. And a quick reminder that if you enjoy this podcast, subscribe at iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.